Today, Mayogo is live. And if you have done that, thank you. So tonight, we are sort of like picking up from where we draw the curtains the last time. So, and that is going to be the vituperations of El Rufai and Rotifmi, Amaechi, the Ubima, Judas Iscariot, raising the alarm, a kind of like a warning for those who call themselves, what do you call them again? The opposition. So that Tinubu is not going to willingly leave power, and, he will do everything within his means, like other criminal politicians in that contraption, to retain that power, because all they came to do is to steal, maim, and to kill. Now, the statements of Amaechi has also triggered reactions. Similarly, the statement of the El Rufai, the Kaduna Little Finger, has also triggered reactions. Just 2 days ago, there was this report that the Ohaneze Ndigbo, who just had their election recently, right? They've endorsed Tinubu for second term. According to them, Tinubu is doing a great work. He's doing a great job right now. That 2 years into his regime, he is qualified to have the second term, kind of. Others within the camp of Tinubu have considered everyone who is opposed to Tinubu spending 8 years, like others before him, like Bukwari, right? Is that person is cutting the wrath of the establishment. This is the position, but let me explain what they mean by that. It doesn't matter if Tinubu and his criminal regime, illegitimate regime, it doesn't matter if they are wrecking Nigeria. It doesn't really matter if people have become more vulnerable and poorer. It doesn't matter. The seat of power in Nigeria, according to those around Tinubu, is a turn-by-turn Nigeria Limited, which means, as worst as Bukwari was, that they had to endure and stood by him, and therefore, whatever it is that anyone feels about Tinubu, it is going to cause a problem for anyone or anybody to form an opposition in the interest of taking power from him. Taking power from Tinubu in 2027, according to the rogues around him, is tantamount to creating it's like a tantamount to a threat to national security of Nigeria. So, Patawale, the former governor of Zamfara, who is now the Minister of State for Nigeria, of Defense, Nigeria, under Tinubu, is the one to issue the first threat to those who are coming together in their plot to remove Tinubu. He said, a Fulani man has spent 8 years, a northerner. The right thing right now is for the South, represented by Tinubu, to spend his own 8 years too. That the likes of Amaechi should understand something, right? As a former minister himself and a former governor, there is utterances of openly criticizing Tinubu in that manner. It's like calling on the Nigerians to attack Tinubu's government. And doing so will come with consequences that Amaechi should be prepared. Like criticizing Tinubu in this manner, or calling the people to get Tinubu removed in 2027 is like cutting a national problem. And Amaechi will be treated accordingly, like it will be dealt with accordingly if he doesn't, if he doesn't desist from that. So this is the agenda, just so for those who care to listen and those who don't really care to listen. Tinubu's presidency, as corrupt, incompetent, and as crooked as they are, They believe it is their turn, it is their right. So if you, for any reason, is found among those who are plotting to get Tinubu removed, like when you say removed, it's like saying that they could use the election to remove Tinubu, and anyone or everyone in that enterprise or in that adventure have to be very careful of what they say, because for the peace of Nigeria, for the peace of that Nigeria, Tinubu must do 8 years. So, just like I said before, I am looking forward to the time when their center will no longer hold. I'm waiting for the time when, because I can feel it that they've already pressed what is called the self-destruct button, like a PDP did. But I just don't know how soon the entire center will implode, but it seems to be cooking, right? Now that is that. On the other part, it is the, brewing disagreement, threat, left, right, and center on this Sharia in Yoruba land. Brethren, if I can kind of like take us a little bit back to 2016, 2017, nearly 2 years. It wasn't up to 2 years. It was like a few months after Bokwari in 2015. By 2016, by June 2016, Bokwari's regime and those around him, they were already unleashing their what we now known as Fulani or Fulanization agenda. Remember that before this APC, the most prominent sort of terrorist in the Nigeria's space was the Boko Haram, Alhaji Shekau, remember him. But just 8 months after Bokwari, we started seeing the adventure of the Fulani terrorists up north, and slowly but surely spread to the southern part of Nigeria. Kidnapping, farm invasion, destroying of people's farms, and then killing anybody who tried to fight them, and on and on and on and on. Then they started the agenda of farmers' others clashes, remember? Oh, farmers' others clashes. It was only the farmers that were being killed. How come the farmers' others clashed on the farmer's farm, and it is only the farmer that get killed, or the farmer's village that got burned down? What kind of narrative is this? What kind of agenda is this? Farmers' others clashes. Waiting Fulani others they find on top Yoruba farmers farm. How is that even a genuine report? So we started digging only to realize that it was a mean to an end, only for the Bokwari's regime to start a different kind of like agenda for peace to reign. People must be willing to give up their farms, their lands, your land or your life. Or we need to start a cattle colony. We needed a grazing route. All the false lies that these guys kind of like a push for their agenda, right? I'm just reminding you of this, so in case if you have forgotten, because there is new agenda on the horizon right now, and it will be defeated as well, all right? It will be. So back then, right, the Fulani terrorists, as they wanted to be called Fulani herdsmen. They weren't herdsmen, they were terrorists that terrorized both the West, the East, until people responded. So they said, oh, okay, to stop farmers' others. What do you mean farmers' others clashes? You're not the mad? Well, they said to stop farmers' others clashes, we needed to go back to grazing route. I was like, come, how can the Fulanis have grazing route in Yoruba land or any land at all in Nigeria? Like, say they had a route where their cows were allowed to pass. So say, in Yoruba land, we're going to kill you and that's your grazing route. So that was defeated. This was, I'm talking about the policies of the federal government or the Fulani government of Nigeria then, right? Then they said, oh, okay, we needed to start a cattle colony. Cattle colony. there will be no cattle colony in Yoruba land. How many of you remember that time? There will be none. They were gaslighting us. They were threatening us. There was nothing they didn't try. If you remember, just because they wanted to bring in these Fulani murderers, these Fulani terrorists into our midst. If you remember, it was rejected. Then they appointed the Pastor Ruga to go and start what they call the rural grazing areas. Rural grazing areas. Ruga. In Yoruba land, no, there will be no Ruga in Yoruba land. And almost everywhere, including the middle belt part of Nigeria, they said, no, we will never subscribe to any Ruga. You know, they were proposing things to give, they call it the peace conditions. They were telling the indigenous people, the only pathway to peace was going to be on the terms of the Fulanis. But don't forget, there were also Olori Buruku Yorubas who were actually supporting the idea. There were Yoruba Omuales, the Yoruba bastards within the APC. Some of them have now turned to the Ronukus of today, who indeed said there were lands were just there wasting, give it to them. Let us just, you know, why are you always like, it's because you hated Bukwari, this idea, you know, they had to do ranching, they had to do this and that for the Fulanis. And we're like, cow business is a private business, just like a spare parts business. If you wanted to start a business, if you want to start a spare part business right now, you will go and raise your fund anywhere. Then you're going to approach, if you want to buy land to build the shops, or if you want to rent a shop, you have to approach the owners, register yourselves, and pay the rent. Abi? It wasn't the government. It wasn't like the Igbos, for example, who are into the spare part business. The Igbos did not group themselves and start shooting and killing people and asking for a land to build their own mechanic shop or whatever other shops they wanted. So why should anybody with cows be given a special treatment whereby, rather than treat them as terrorists as they are, why should anybody part with their lands? If the Fulanis want lands that they wanted to rear their cows, the ideal thing is for them to approach the landowners and pay them to buy or rent the lands. Not that you are going to invade people's farms, destroy their farms, and then kill them, ransack villages, and kill people in their sleeps. And then all of a sudden, it will become the policy of the government at the center. The indigenous people must part with their land for peace. What kind of peace is that? I'm reminding you all these agendas because they all seemed like yesterday. There wasn't anything they didn't try. So when they realized that the Ruga won't pass, they decided to use the National Assembly, where they started proposing what they call the waterway bills. Remember? All of this to get the Fulani terrorists indigenized in the southern part of Nigeria. Okay? And at the same time, create their own, they will give them, from this small space to that large space. And then they will give them their own local government areas within Yoruba land, within the Igbo land. But people saw through all of that. If you are going to have any peace, you can't have peace with murderers. They were meant to be dealt with as murderers, as terrorists, right? But we had Yoruba bastards at the time. Because of their loyalty to APC, they said it was a good idea to give our lands to murderers. So they brought what they call the waterway bills. That one, they said, every water in Nigeria, because it is the southern Nigeria that actually has any kind of like economically viable waterways, right? So they said, waterway bills means every water in Nigeria is owned by the federal government of Nigeria, and not just the water. They said 10 kilometers away from the water bank. If you have this, let me use the example. Have you been to the bar beach in Lagos? If you haven't, well, you have an idea of what beach looks like, right? So if you have been to the bar beach in Lagos, right, it simply means you see where that water stops. Then they will now measure 10 kilometers of that land straight into the Lagos Island. So you get now. Now, all the properties, the land there is going to be owned by the federal government of Nigeria. And as the federal government of Nigeria, the idea was they can then allocate the lands to the Fulani terrorists and their cows. So that also got rejected. In fact, got defeated in their National Assembly. So you see all these tricks, they've kind of given us an idea of what APC, Egbekegbe, represents. So when they pushed their Muslim ticket, I knew that something was going to come out of that again, that is always going to be like the anti, the people. So Muslim tickets that doesn't really give a damn about any Muslim whatsoever, other than just the idea of subjugation, control, which is so synonymous with this Fulanis, so to say, especially the elite. So the great-grandson of Uthman Danfodio, the first terrorist in the land that is now known as part of Nigeria today, Saad Abubakar, who is the Sultan of Sokoto right now, and those who are probably working with him, they now pushed one thing just 2 days ago. It's like a rage, where the Sultan of Sokoto was so disappointed in the Yorubas, and he called us intolerance. Yorubas are not tolerant of other religions. He said, Yorubas, in this man now, like, say, if you are not a Muslim and you are a Yoruba, you are considered as somebody who is intolerant, because they are pushing the agenda of a Sharia this, Sharia that. So under Bokwari, it was Ruga, cattle colony, grazing routes. Now under Tinubu, in their Muslim ticket, it is now Sharia. Okay? Sharia, where they said they want their own courts. After having their Sharia panels, they also want their own court, where they don't have to take what they call the Muslim cases to any conventional court, but their own court. And then people were like, you know what? Even the Yoruba Muslims were like, what are you talking about? We don't need Sharia. We don't want Sharia. All right? Then you also, again, right now, you have the Yoruba bastards, Yoruba Omuale Yorubas, right? Who are indeed, because this is just like during the Bokwari's time, when the Yorubas rose up and said, okay, we're going to start a Amotekun to defend ourselves against this marauding Fulani terrorist. There were Yorubas who were completely against it. The number one person who was against Yorubas defending Yoruba land is no other person than this Tinubu, this druggy, Kolu, the man that went to see the Afenifere leader back then, Fashoroti. And then it was like, when his daughter was killed, Tinubu was there to ask her, where are the cows? In defense of these Fulani murderers, these Fulani terrorists. And there were Yorubas who were on the ground and said, there's nothing wrong if we give them land for peace. They didn't get a piece of land, talk less of any other piece what they are proposing, right? Till today, there's no single plot of Ruga in Yoruba land. 8 years of Bokwari couldn't give them that. Because there are some of them, especially those who are in the APC, Egbekegbe, who believe that they have something in common with the North, their religion. You understand that there are Yoruba Muslims, right? Fanatics, who kind of feel like they are Fulanis too, because of their religion with the North. Even though nobody really gives a shit about them per se. But they just like pretty much like wannabe Muslims or wannabe terrorists who are probably presently don't even have what it takes to behead someone, but they will get there. Hopefully, they hope they will get there. So another thing to get them, have something they will call, something they share in common with this northern terrorist. Again, religion. So to them, anyone insulting the Satan of Sokoto is insulting Islam. And they are not going to take that lightly with anyone. Right? So this next 2 years, or maybe 6 years, if Tinubu rig himself again, right? So their agenda obviously is clear. It is going to be religious and inciting religious